Sideline! Touchdown! Pass is intercepted in the goal line. Up for the line! Oh, blocked by James! Hey, way downtown.
Welcome to the 2020 podcast, where hindsight is 2020, but the takes here are always 10 out of 10. If you are a returning listener, we do appreciate it. Make sure you keep listening.
We do.
Keep watching. I just want to say thank you before we even get into anything, because there was a podcast episode on YouTube that eclipsed 100 views, and you guys are actually listening, like over halfway listening for the average time. So we do appreciate that. If you are brand new here and you don't know who we are, we are the 2020 podcast. I'm your host, Jacob. We are a sports-based podcast. This is the co-host, Drew. We do an NFL show, and starting on Friday, doing an NBA show. We go live on YouTube on Mondays or Tuesdays, depending on how schedules are for the NFL. NBAs will be Fridays, and those episodes, the full-length episodes, will be out the very next day. Great show we have going on. Same stuff as we usually do. Game of the week, our heat checks, going over our other headlines, and then we have some interesting stuff to go over for our snap decisions, and as always, our upset of the week. But before we get into any of that stuff, Drew, how are we doing?
We're doing great. I just got to send out the link here real quick to all my fans and followers. And by fans and followers, I mean my mom. Shout out to my mother who watches us every week, even though she has no idea what we're talking about. Shout out to her. I'm doing great. Before we went on the air, not to hijack the beginning of this, I talked about how today was a crazy day for me and I was a little unprepared. And I need you to give me like 15 seconds because I realized that I didn't show up properly. So go ahead and just take it away for 15 seconds. I got to get this dingy Nike shirt off. I'll be right back. Okay.
All right. I'll start off as we usually do. And that is going to be with the game of the week. And it is going to be the only game I felt like that was generally entertaining and also close at the same time. And that is going to be yesterday's game. And that's going to be the Bills versus the Jets. Obviously, with the Bills taking the win with a 3-point lead. Aaron Rodgers throwing a late game interception. With the game of the week, how we always start off with is we start off with an MVP and an unsung hero, a guy that maybe isn't going to get as much credit as he should. And then we're going to go with our takeaways. Starting off with our MVP, though, Drew, who are we coming in with?
Davante Adams to the Jets. What's so funny?
Oh, that's good.
I walked into the sporting goods store. They just gave it to me. I walked in. I said, hey, bro, I got to get a lanyard, 49ers lanyard. It's my boy's birthday. Hey, do you want a jersey? No. That's $175. I don't want. No, it's Davante Adams Raiders jersey. It's free. I was like, it's free? They're like, yeah, please take it. You can wear it. You can wipe your ass with it. There's a lot of things you can do with a Davante Adams Raiders jersey. You can't resell it. It ain't worth shit no more. But
that's great.
I'm just saying, when life hands you lemons, when life hands you free Davante Adams jerseys, you know what you got to do? You just got to make lemonade. And you know what else I picked up when I was at that store? I picked me up a badass Detroit Lions hat.
That's fucking crazy.
Because the Detroit Lions whipped that Cowboys ass.
That's fucking insane.
I apologize. Now that I'm in uniform, we can continue the podcast. Let's go.
That's great. Okay. I mean, God damn, that's fucking horrible. But, I was going to say, wow, the Raiders jersey on you, that's a little wild. But then you pull out. I wasn't expecting it. That was good. So for your actual MVP for Game of the Week, who are you going with?
MVP this week is going to be Mr. Josh Allen. I know he's on a rookie running back. I know that he has no wide receivers to speak of. Oh, wait, maybe he does. And he still just goes out there and he completes 16 to 21 passes for 200 yards. He throws touchdowns. He rushes touchdowns. I'm pretty sure he could catch a touchdown if there was a quarterback to throw it to him. And you know what? Like Boobie Miles in Friday Night Lights, he could probably even kick the extra point. Josh Allen is the man. He continues to strap this whole Bills team to his back.
Yeah.
The defense is better than we thought. That pass rush is very, very interesting. Interesting development because we were a little concerned about the defense with all the players, almost seems like half their starters they turned over. But Mr. Rousseau has been a beast to start the year. And who was your player of the game?
I think it has to be Ray Davis. I specifically went with Ray, obviously, because 152 scrimmage yards is obviously nothing to scoff at. 97 on the ground, 55 in the air, 3 receptions, 20 carries. James Cook out with a toe injury, and then this is the classic next man up mentality. And Ray Davis steps in and does his job, not just sufficiently, but he overperforms and he tears up that entire defense. The Jets defense is good, and he does that against them. It's impressive. I was really high on Ray Davis coming out of college. He got drafted in the 4th round. That's probably roughly where he should have gone. Being behind James Cook, I was a little bit bummed out because he wasn't going to get a lot of opportunities, and he's making the most of it right here. He only had 30 total touches before this game, and then coming in with 20 carries and then 3 receptions. So 23 total touches. And then again, tearing them up. I think he has to be the MVP for me.
That's the discussion on these rookie running backs. Jordan Mason goes down in the 49er game, and they give it to Isaac Guerrero, rookie running back who hasn't done anything this year. And, he busts off 12 or 13 carries for 100 yards. That's why it's going to be a super interesting topic in the offseason with a certain Boise State running back who is just absolutely destroying it right now in college, and what his worth is and where he goes, because you don't want to be the team that takes Bijan Robinson with the 8th overall pick just to watch Devon Achane go in the 5th round. So these rookie running backs, you never know when they're going to hit. You never know where they're going to come from. But shout out to Ray Davis for making a huge impact. Yeah. And, outside of Josh Allen, obviously he's the quarterback. He gets the props, willed this team to a win.
Yeah,
with a little help from the guys in the striped jerseys.
You definitely don't want to be the team that also drafts Michael Penix 8th overall and then just set him for the next 2 years either, and when he's going to be like 28 years old when he starts. But I think maybe they're the same team, maybe they're not. But
shout out to the Falcons,
right? Who's your unsung hero? You mentioned him a little bit, I think.
My unsung hero is going to be I got 2 unsung heroes, actually. I got one that has nothing to do with this game, if I can cover him next, if you can bring me back to this. My unsung hero is going to be the referees, because they were the stars of the show. We tuned into Monday Night Penalties, Monday night, our favorite show on cable network, and we got to see the refs do their thing. I think they awarded the Bills 5 or 6 first downs due to penalties. And, there was a comment late in the game by one of the broadcasters where he was complaining, talking about how it was a preseason game. And then they showed the penalties that happened. And then he was like, oh, well, you know what? I guess you do have to call that. It is a penalty. I get it. The roughing the passer calls where the body weight, like, if we want to change plays, if we want to call penalties on plays to eliminate a certain play from the game, and we're talking about the lifting the quarterback up and dropping him and falling on them, if you want to eliminate that play from the game, that's fine. But It's been four or 5 years since they changed this rule. That doesn't happen anymore. We don't see the quarterbacks picked up and dipped anymore. Get rid of the body weight penalty. It's just absolute garbage. Josh Allen is a grown-ass man. Like he's the size of Penei Sewell damn near. Like he's going to be okay if you tackle him. And if he's not, it is what it is. I don't want to tune in to see the backup quarterbacks anyway, either. Unless you're a Raiders fan, then all they have is backup quarterbacks. But besides in those certain cases, we want to see the stars play, but we don't want to see games end on penalties. It's awful. And it was 6 or 7 plays in a row. Yellow, yellow, yellow. It was absolutely awful. Unsung hero of the game.
Yeah, for me, I think I have to go with Taylor Rapp, and it's funny that you brought up the penalties following just an absurd roughing the passer call on AJ Espinoza, who was one of those pass rushers who ended up stepping up for the Bills on 3rd down to keep the Jets' first offensive possession alive in the second half, at least. Rapp really made several big plays to keep the Jets out of the end zone over and over again. And then on top of that, there's an argument that he was just the best defensive player on the field while the Jets were on offense. He was all over the place. 8 tackles that tied with I think it's Teron Johnson also had 8, which you don't want your corners to have 8 tackles. That's not good.
That's not good.
But he also had 3 pass deflections on top of that again, and making huge plays when it actually matters. And you know, when you make those game-saving plays, starting the second half, and then it comes down to 3 points and a pick late, then those matters. That's when you get that unsung hero for me. What were you gonna say after the second unsung hero?
Oh, I wanted to go back to my favorite football team. As you could see, I'm a huge Raiders fan, and I wanted to ask you about what you think about we finally have a real owner.
Who has
Tom Brady?
Oh,
Tom Brady, owner of the Raiders. I mean, come on, what are we going to say? 5 to 7 years before the league pushes Mark Davis out, and Tom Brady is president of football operations. I have this guy at work. He's one of my homies. He comes up to me today, and he goes, "Hey, so do you think now that the Tom Brady owns the Raiders, that means that we have 10 Super Bowls?" And I was like, it was funny. It made me laugh. I was like, no, my dude, that's unfortunately that's not how that works.
However but spin it to make yourself feel good.
Interestingly enough, they went and got the guy that I don't know if you guys were all alive for this, but there was a certain play they used to call it the Tuck Rule game that involved 2 teams, you know, and they went and made that guy the partial minority owner. So an interesting decision, and shout out to Richard Seymour as well, another Patriots legend. So
yeah,
there you go.
There was a lot of stuff voted on by the owners. That, and then the Jaguars, as awful as they've been, their stadium got approved. So, you know,
who?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we'll talk about it a little bit later.
Are they building it in London?
London? They should.
I'm just because listen, there's not even a Jacksonville Jaguars fan in Jacksonville.
Yep.
You know how every time there's mass tragedies that we see online, and then you see like the same 6 people in all the photos, they just have the 2 Jacksonville Jaguars fans, which are actually Shad Khan's neighbors, and they just clone them and they stick them in the stadium, and then they use basically AI to show that the Jacksonville Jaguars actually have fans. And then you're watching the game on Sunday, and there's a ton of Bears fans, shout out Caleb Williams, and then there's like Cardinals fans, and then there's Packers fans. And I'm like, how many more teams are we going to see in the stands in London before we see a Jacksonville Jaguars jersey?
Outside of our MVP and our unsung hero, when it comes to the Bills takeaway, because they did win the game, and we always start out with the winners here. I'll go ahead and start out with, you kind of already mentioned it with the Bills, but my biggest takeaway for this game and for the entire season really is the Bills are only going to go as far as Josh Allen's back can take them. I mean, that's been clear from the beginning. You pounded the table and you were like, listen, the Bills aren't going to be bad because Josh Allen isn't bad, because Josh Allen is good, and everything is going to come down to him. And that is true up to this point, 6 weeks into the season. That's not false. That is the most blatant truth that we can be honest with. He had a huge first half, 3 total touchdowns, 2 of them coming through the air. And outside of that, you have to have the small players do small things. Ray Davis, again, next man up, 152 total yards. You have to have games like that. AJ Espinoza tallying up 2 sacks. You have to have guys to do those step-up things. But Josh Allen is still going to take this team as far as it's going to go. Obviously, they've lost a couple of really close games and some good games. But Josh Allen, he can't do everything. I'm curious to see how far the Bills team is really going to go this offseason. Maybe when we get later into the season, it's going to be interesting to have a conversation how realistic we can be about this Bills team. When we get a better idea, I would say in the next 4 weeks about what their potential is once they have certain matchups. But what was your takeaways for the Bills?
Yeah, it's they made a decision today that I think is going to help them go forward.
Yeah,
got them some much needed help.
Yep. For
basically free, which is super nice. Shout out to Amari Cooper. I think he's going to help tremendously. I do like to talk a lot, and I apologize. I'm not that good at listening. But when we did these preseason power rankings, and I was super high on the Bills, who did you have in there instead of the Bills? I don't remember.
I don't remember either, dude.
Was it the Cleveland Deshaun Watsons?
I black law that out.
Oh, okay. I was just curious. Yeah, I mean, the Bills are as dangerous as they come. Whether they can beat the Chiefs in the playoffs remains to be seen because we know the 49ers can't. So hopefully a couple more star wide receivers for the Chiefs will continue to get injured. That way they don't make it to the Super Bowl this year. That's what I have a prayer circle outside, and that's what I pray about every night is the Chiefs and lots of injuries. So, and I don't normally root for injuries, but whatever stops the Chiefs from winning, I'm on board. I'll do voodoo, whatever it takes. So the Bills are going to go as far as Josh Allen takes them. Clearly their running game is next level this year because it's multiple backs now that are having success, which is a great sign for them. Clearly Josh Allen has great success in the running game, and now you got 2 running backs that are doing it. So, and they just added a wide receiver. Where he's at in his stage of his career, he's had a terrible year so far. So we'll see how much of an impact he has. But teams that have Super Bowl aspirations always make big time acquisitions at the deadline or leading up to the deadline. So
yeah. What about for the Jets?
Okay, so Devontae and Aaron Rodgers are like the 5th highest targeted duo quarterback wide receiver since they've been in the league, the 7th most yards, their completion rating, their quarterback rating, all this stuff is fantastic. It's next level.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it helps that much. And I know that's probably sacrilegious. I'm wearing the man's jersey. He's 31. Yeah. You know, he's not been great in Las Vegas, and I know he's getting hospital balls from Jimmy Garoppolo. He's getting, I don't even know what the hell you call what Aiden O'Connell does. Gardner Minshew's not much better, but you generally don't get better as your career winds down, and so it remains to be seen what he can bring to the Jets. I just don't know if they are good enough overall talent-wise. I don't know what they were doing with firing Robert Saleh so early. I would have fired the offense coordinator. They bring in a new offensive coordinator this week, and the offense doesn't look much different. You know, it's really just kind of, I mean, outside of a Hail Mary, which was fantastic, shout out to vintage Aaron Rodgers, that game is a blowout if that Hail Mary doesn't happen. Yep. So, you know, any game can be close. The one thing that was super exciting about the kickoff rule this year was it was gonna lessen the gap between really good teams and really bad teams because one kickoff return can change everything. That's what that Hail Mary did. This game really was never close. There was a couple of missed field goals. There was a ton of penalties, but you could just see the talent dispersity on the field. So I don't know if Josh Allen to the Jets makes them a playoff team. Let me make a bold prediction. Devontae Adams will play in the same amount of playoff games this year as the Raiders do. That's going to be 0.
Yeah, I could get that one. I think for me is the biggest takeaway is they fired Robert Saleh too early. I think that's the end takeaway for me personally. The defense didn't look that great. You have a rookie running back drafted in the 4th round. As high as I was, and I am about Ray Davis, it's a 4th round rookie running back totaling up 152 total scrimmage yards against you in his first full starting game. And then Josh Allen, obviously, he had a good game as well. So your defense got tore up. The score wasn't as close as it actually was. I think firing that dude as early as you did, huge mistake. As you already said, maybe firing Nathaniel Hackett is probably the better decision, but you're not going to fire the guy that Aaron Rodgers loves, and he defends to the absolute death. And every single time anyone bad mouths the dude's name, like he loses his fucking mind on the Pat McAfee show. So that's the biggest thing. So is firing him a little bit too early.
Did you see Aaron on the McAfee show today?
Oh yeah, with
where he looks over that he's like, and Pat, he's like, wait, what's this? And then Devontae peeks in, and Pat's like, well. I'm like, oh yeah, that wasn't planned at all.
Yeah, right.
That's like when I have Justin Fields in studio. We all know it's coming.
Right.
Shout out to him. Poor him. We'll talk about that later.
Definitely. Before we move on to our next segment, I do want to turn it to the YouTube comments. A couple of questions that we have
about your haircut.
Yeah. Apparently, did I get a haircut? No, I haven't got a haircut in a hot minute. It's probably going to stay that way for a while.
We can't afford it. We need more subscribers, please.
Yeah, we're
saving
up for more equipment.
Send this to your mom, your dad, your cousins, your nephews. Send it to everybody. Make a fake Gmail account and subscribe to it. Let's do it. Like, just,
and watch, because that's what YouTube cares about. 111 subs, and like I said at the beginning of the show, one of our full podcast videos got over 100 views, and people are watching for over an hour on that one. So we do appreciate that. So keep running up those views, and it'll keep being pushed to other people. Next question: when is CMC going to come back?
He's at practice-ish. He's not coming back this week. Shout out to Ricky Pearsall. His practice window was opened. I would expect him to be back against Tampa. That would be my guess. We have the Chiefs this week. Next week we play some jabroni team from Dallas, and then the week after that we got the Bucks. I would say they're saying November. The Bucks game is the first week in November, but frankly, Jordan Mason's been great. I'm not sure what we're really missing McCaffrey at is our red zone problems. Our red zone offense has been bottom of the league this year, which is crazy because the rest of the offense has been top of the league this year. So we definitely need him back, but I'm more excited about trying to get Dre Greenlaw back in the fold, to be honest, because Devondre Campbell has been terrible.
Yeah, probably going to see him on snap count when he first comes back, even with taking the additional time.
Oh, I don't know. Kyle Shanahan doesn't do anything like that. He just, last year we're winning by 21 points. He's like, give him another dive up the middle, dive up the middle, dive up the middle. Hey, Kyle, you got 57 running backs on the roster. Maybe we get that guy a dive up the middle. No, it's McCaffrey. Throw a pass, catch a pass. 55 touches. Like, okay, Kyle, like, are we sure we need this guy in the Super Bowl? No. Give the ball to McCaffrey. CMC. What about Debo? Who's Debo? Give it to Christian. Okay, that's fine. And then guess what? Double Achilles tendonitis in both the. Hey, Kyle, do you think maybe you could have, when we were up by 30 in that one game and you're still doing, halfback dives? Brock's not even in the game anymore. Why is Christian in the game? No, give it to Christian. Like, okay, Kyle, you know what? You do you. He just can't. He's been on the IR the first 8 weeks. He's back from Achilles tendonitis. Let's give him 37 fucking touches. Full send. Let's go.
Oh, man. Last question is, who do we have for the Lions versus the Vikings? Unless that is going to spoil anything for later. For me, it's not, but.
Yeah, I can't. I can give you a prediction on that. Detroit. Duh! You see this? I'm clearly the biggest Detroit fan on the 2020 podcast.
I think I'm still gonna go. I'm gonna go with the Vikings on this one. Until they lose, I'm curious to see who's going to beat that defense. Now that the offense for the Lions is fully churning, fully chugging the past couple of weeks, seems like they really hit their stride. Getting everyone involved. Amon-Ra, you got J-Mo out there doing his thing, obviously, and he's super duper explosive. You have an offensive lineman, lining up outside and playing wide receiver.
Yo, Ben Johnson was so disrespectful to you guys. He was trying that play that Penei Sewell made. I know that it came back, but the hook and ladder, and then he dove for the touchdown. That was badass. I know you turned the game off after the first quarter, but oh my gosh, they're lining the offensive lineman out at the X position. I'm just like, wow, Ben, you're just. And then I think Tom Brady's like, hey man, you want to save some of these plays for a game that actually matters? Nope. Listen. On one TV, we got Kyle Shanahan giving his 47th touch to Christian McCaffrey in one game. And on the other TV, we got Ben Johnson. He lined up 6 defensive linemen in the backfield and ran a trick play.
Yep.
Let's just go. I fully expect Penei Sewell to throw a touchdown this year. They're going to line him up at fullback, hand it off, and he's going to dump it right over the top.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch now that this week is done and over with, because I do like the Lions, and I like everyone who's on the Lions. I think they're all good dudes.
You didn't like the Lions this week? I did. It was great.
Oh, yeah, was it? Shut the fuck up. God, always fucking talking. We have a fucking podcast or something? Always talking? That's crazy. Jesus Christ.
That should be the new name. Always talking.
Always talking, exactly.
Taylor's always talking.
All right. Well, I think we're good to go ahead and move on. And Drew, if you hear that, I think it is time for our Week 6 Heat Check, where we check in with the hottest players around the NFL on the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball. Special spotlight and shout out to our rookies that we pay very close attention to.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Was that Flames?
It was Flames.
Was that for the week 5 Heat Check, or was that the sound on Mike McCarthy's seat that he's sitting on? Because that boy's seat is hot. It's hot. Antonio Pierce, his seat is hot. I predicted this in the offseason, did I not?
Yep.
I said Mike McCarthy, you're like, no. I said Antonio Pierce, you're like, no. I said Dennis Allen, you're like, no.
You having a good time?
Bro, they gave this shit to me.
So excited about free shit.
Can I tell you the story? So I tell my boy, I'm like, hey, I need you to go to Lids and get me a hat because I got a stunt on my cousin on the podcast tonight. I got to get me a Lions hat because they smashed the Cowboys. So he walks in there and he FaceTimes me. He's like, which one do you want? And I was like, okay, I want that one. I was like, hey, ask him if the Devontae Adams jerseys are on sale because he's a huge Raiders fan, right? Yeah. Massive Raiders fan. Like, we're going to the Super Bowl type idiot Raiders fan, right? And he's like, I already asked them. They're on for sale. I said, hey, tell that dude, because I gave him $100 bill to go get this hat. I said, tell that dude, if he gives me the hat and the jersey for $100, I'll buy one. Dude, this is a $179 jersey that they sold to me for $49.99. I got the Devontae jersey for $49 and the hat for $35. Can you believe that?
That was gonna be my next question. Was what was more expensive, the hat or the jersey?
Damn near the hat. You know what I'm saying? This is why, for anyone that's watching this segment, I'm just gonna give you one recommendation when you're buying football jerseys: buy the Legends. Okay, Get yourself a Jerry Rice. Get yourself an Emmitt Smith. Yep. Don't go out there and get yourself a Micah Parsons jersey, then be sad when he's on another team next year. Don't go get yourself a Max Crosby jersey unless it's in Detroit Lions blue because he ain't going to be on the team no more. Like, buy the Legends. That's the smart way to go.
Absolutely. Now, moving on to our Week 6 Heat Check, where we check in with the hottest players around the league. Let's go ahead and start off with the defensive side of the ball. And I want to hear who you have because we talked about it a little bit before the podcast started. So I'm curious to see which direction you really went here.
Yeah, we got a 95.1 PFF grade this week. We had a win rate on 59% of his pressures, and we had a snapped ass ankle.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and shout out Aiden Hutchinson for a couple of reasons. A, he was the defensive player of the year this year. Full stop. He was killing it.
Yeah.
B, he made the Cowboys look like dog shit, which is my favorite thing in the world.
Not hard to do.
And C, he's out for the year, which is super unfortunate.
Sucks.
I made the joke earlier about the Chiefs and all their players getting injured. We don't want that. We really don't want it. And right. Aiden Hutchinson, he's taken the league by storm. He was not projected in college to do what he has done, but he's just one of those guys whose motor never shuts off. We're not talking about pressures with Aiden Hutchinson, okay? Hey, do you know Nick Bosa just set a record last week, an NFL record on some bullshit? Well, he ain't got no sacks. Congratulations on all your pressures, Nick Bosa, you bum. Aiden Hutchinson gets sacks. TJ Watt gets sacks. I like sacks. I love sacks.
That one's getting clipped.
Yeah, clip that. Listen, I'm wearing a Raiders jersey. Clearly, I love sacks. Okay, it's all right. That's just what it is. So shout out to Aiden Hutchinson. I'm giving him my Week 5 Heat Check Defensive Player of the Week because he deserves it. He was a menace this year. Sucks to see him out.
No, absolutely. My Defensive Player of the Week is definitely going to be Will Anderson. 8 tackles, 3 sacks, 4 tackles for a loss, a pass deflection, and 3 quarterback hits all over the place. It seems like these past couple of years with these edge rushers coming out of college, they're kind of what they're advertised. You know, what you see is what you get. And Will Anderson, Aiden Hutchinson, we're not gonna Mr. Trayvon Walker. We're not gonna go ahead and mention him too much. He had a good year last year, 11.5 sacks, but I think we all knew that Aiden Hutchinson was the best edge rusher in that class. Trayvon Walker wasn't even the second best player. It was in that class. It was Aiden Hutchinson, and right below that was Kyle Hamilton. That was the 1 and 2. Absolutely, at least to me in my rankings. That's
no love for Kayvon.
No, we had that discussion. We don't have to bring that one up again. It was definitely
Didn't they just put him on IR?
Kayvon, yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. But yeah, so again, Will Anderson, absolute menace, 8 tackles, 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss once again, pass deflection, 3 quarterback hits, all over the place for a very, very good Houston Texans team. Looking at the other side of the ball now, the offensive players, who'd you go with for your offensive player of the week? Brand new guy, right? Someone we've never mentioned before.
I didn't even know who the hell he was.
Yeah, yeah. That's fair.
I was tuned into that game talking about the Bucs Saints, and there's this guy running all over the place, Sean Tucker. I'm like, what's a Sean Tucker? Sounds like a movie star. Where's Bucky? I like Bucky. I know who Bucky is. Yep. I thought Leonard Fournette was the running back for this team. Who is this Sean Tucker guy? Well, let me tell you now. I know who the man is now. I know who Sean Tucker is today. A hell of a performance. The Saints defense, the Saints offense, really, it seemed like it was game in the beginning. Spencer Rattler, he did not look like he was, the moment was too big for him. I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the league, but you can't go wrong being a really, really good backup. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But I went with Sean Tucker. I think he had roughly 186 yards and 1,000 touchdowns and 2 touchdowns. And it was an excellent performance. I love these come out of nowhere performances, much like Jordan Mason week 1, just these guys that people don't know about, and then they're just showing out. It just goes to show you the level of talent on an NFL football team from the top roster spot all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah, I told you who my offensive player of the week was beforehand, and I think I'm actually going to pivot away from that one because we've mentioned him quite a bit. So I'm going to actually give it to someone else on a very quick audible, and then I'm going to hand it over to Jared Goff. And it's funny looking at my segments, defensive player of the week. I had Brian Branch on there. I almost gave it to, and he's highlighted for me. I also have Jared Goff in the offensive segment, and it feels like I have a Detroit Lion in every single segment so far. But Jared Goff, 18 of 25, 315 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Dallas Cowboys. Audible away from Lamar Jackson having a really good game against the Washington Commanders. But what Jared Goff did and what the Lions did, that entire offense was just decimate and demoralize the entire team. But yeah, so again, demoralizing for watching it. So not the funnest thing on the planet trying to go through that one. So Jared Goff once again gets my offensive player of the week. Now looking at the rookie performances for week 6, and I want to talk about Drew, do you want to take the first one? I'm not sure which way you were going to go. I know you said we didn't exactly have the same guys.
There's a guy in our comments talking about how he told me that Aiden Hutchinson was going to be Nick Bosa's, little clone. And shout out to him. He also wants to come on the podcast. He's a wealth of football knowledge, but there's 2 problems. He sold you your car. I don't know if you remember Ronnie.
I remember Ronnie.
The problem with bringing Ronnie on is 2 things: is he's a Steelers fan, and the other problem with him is he was present to a huge debate I had a number of years ago where I proclaimed to the world that Buddy Hield was a better basketball player than Devin Booker. So shout out to Devin Booker. He was on the Olympic gold medal team recently, and Buddy Hield is going to be bench mob for the Warriors this year. So he can never come on the podcast because he was a witness to some of my terrible takes. But shout out to him. I remember he was all over Aiden Hutchinson. But I do believe he was also talking about how amazing a certain running back for the Steelers was that they took in the first round, who pretty much hasn't done anything of note in his career up until last week. So hey, I give credit when credit's due, just like I'm going to bring up the shortcomings, a.k.a. having the Cleveland Browns in the top 10. Mozzie Smith.
Christian Watson.
Hey, bro.
We can keep going.
Christian Watson had a touchdown on Sunday.
Relax. You do this every time. Congrats. You just talked about a certain running back for the Steelers. Like, he didn't do anything until last week. Congrats to Christian Watson. He's actually healthy for the first time in his career again. So, yeah. Moving on to our top rookie performances of week 6. Drew, once again, which way did you go?
Come on, bro. It's Caleb.
Okay.
There's no argument between them. No argument. When was the last time, somebody Google this, when was the last time a Bears quarterback threw for 4 touchdowns? I think it took Justin Fields like 9 games to throw for 4 touchdowns last year. I'm going to Google it. Last time a Bears QB. This is excellent. Yeah.
anyone timing this.
You know what, bro? Google tells me that their history doesn't go back that far.
In one of the original franchises. That's fair. While Drew is still doing his fun little research project, I'll go ahead and take it away with Tyke Smith. Nice try. Tyke Smith, safety for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's almost gotten on this list a handful of times over the first 6 weeks. I put him on the list 3 separate times, just didn't quite crack the list. This is the first week that I felt like putting him on there. Specifically because he got an interception, 5 tackles, 2 pass deflections, a quarterback hit, and his first career pick. So congratulations to Tyke Smith as a guy that we've very lightly kept an eye on the safety spot. It was a pretty weak safety class, didn't really dive super duper deep into it, but he was a guy like very lightly mentioned here and there. But he's having a great year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they definitely need it. For your number 2 top rookie performances, where are you going?
Can you believe that Justin Fields threw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns last year?
What? Oh, in a game?
Yeah, against the Denver Broncos.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that the same team that gave up 181 points to the Dolphins at one point?
Yeah. And somehow
You know
their team is absolutely going fucking crazy this year in terms of their defense. That defense is really good.
I have to say that if you let Justin Fields throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, then maybe Caleb Williams doing it isn't that impressive. Apparently anyone can do it.
Right.
Dak can't do it, but pretty much anyone else can do it.
Yeah, very funny.
You didn't think that was funny?
Who's your second guy?
He took a loss this week. Jaden Daniels did, but
Yeah.
he again looked super, super competitive. His accuracy is on point. I just think it comes down to there's a roster difference between the Ravens and the Washington Commanders. Clearly, Ravens have one of the best rosters in the league. So I'm gonna give it to Jaden Daniels. I know that's super cheap, but he's also still the number 1 rated quarterback in the rookie class so far, and he continues to be impressive every week. He hasn't turned into a pumpkin yet or laid an egg or whatever clever cliche you want to go with, and he continues to be super impressive.
Yeah. I think that there's a handful of rookies that are going to continuously pop up on here. Jaden Daniels is going to be one guy who continuously pops up. And following that same theme is the second guy for me is definitely going to be Brock Bowers, 9 receptions, 75 yards. He's going to pop up, it feels like, every single week. He genuinely looks like not the best rookie tight end in the league. He looks like the best tight end in the league up to this point. He's consistent. He's not just a tight end. He's a weapon. We've said it again and again and again. And if you're just listening to us right now, listen very clearly, because we've said this again and again and again. Brock Bowers is a weapon. He's not just a tight end. He's just that guy. That's who Brock Bowers is.
Do you think Brock Bowers should request a trade now, or should he wait till next year?
Just preemptively do it. Hey, by the way, by week 6 of next year, I'm gonna
get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Who's your last guy? Who's your third?
I really kind of wanted to go away from someone we mentioned, but I'm gonna go with Quinyon Mitchell, because he was really, really good against Deshaun Watson.
And he almost had a pick, but stupid ass CJ Gardner-Johnson ran into him and he was pissed off after. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that. I'm a little hesitant to award this to him because I think that you and I could play corner against Deshaun Watson. And if you guys want to know my combine stats, I run a 9.89 40. It's
pretty impressive.
But that's only because I fell down in the middle of it. Okay. I got my back. I finished the damn race. Okay. I get credit for finishing the race. Bunch of haters. That's okay. So he earned a season high grade. Quinyon Mitchell did. And this cornerback class, we talked a lot about it. We put a lot of work into it. And he's on the field doing his thing. He's been pretty good. Unlike, the Lions' first round rookie corner, who's been terrible. So shout out to Quinyon.
Yeah. And my last guy I'm going to go ahead and go with is a guy we already mentioned for the MVP segment, but I want to put him in this one too. You get double recognition just in case for anyone who doesn't watch the full clips. or the full podcast, or listen to the full podcast, go back to our Game of the Week segment and listen to the MVP. And spoiler alert, it was Ray Davis, 20 carries, 97 yards, 3 receptions for 55 yards, all over the place. Shredded up the Jets defense. We really went in depth in that segment. So again, if you're only listening to this segment here, go back and listen to more of the in depth there. Couple other guys that I just kind of want to just quickly just shout out names. Jatavion Sanders had his first decent game of the year. And also Renardo Green had his first pick of the year. So shout out to him as well. Edgerrin Cooper did decent, 8 tackles. He was out there doing his thing. And a lot of the rookie quarterbacks performed decently well. Drake May, Spencer Rattler, we're going to talk about a little bit later. But Jaden, you already mentioned, and obviously Caleb, we mentioned as well. So anyone else you want to kind of just touch on for a second before we move on?
Yeah, how'd Tyler Guyton do this week?
Same as any other week. Did you know that Zach Martin had a 0 pass block grade this week?
That's excellent. That means that he didn't mess anything up, right?
Yeah, exactly. 0. Did you know that Terrence Steele is allowed the second most amount of pressures in the league this year?
Well, then why did Tyler Guyton get benched and not Terrence Steele? That doesn't make any sense.
Because Terrence Steele got paid because we're fucking stupid. Okay, that's why. Anyway,
can you say it louder for the Cowboys fans in the back? Can you say it louder for the Cowboys fans in Idaho?
Yeah, 1,000 miles away. Let me go ahead and say it louder for you. Okay, well, if we don't have any more rookies to go ahead and touch on, I think we're going to go ahead and move on to our next segment, where not everyone can be winners around here. Some people definitely have to be losers. And when you're a loser, you go into the doghouse. And for the week 6 doghouse, Drew, who you're going with? This is one of my favorite segments, so I'm curious to see where you go.
How many? I can only do one?
You could go 2. You can put however many people will fit in the doghouse, you can put in the doghouse.
Oh, I got a lot going in the doghouse.
All right, let's hear it.
I don't know how many. I have so many people to put in the doghouse. Let me just touch on a couple things that I think are going to be in the doghouse. I'm going to make it quick. The Raiders coaching staff. I don't know what the hell they're doing. Aiden, Gardner Minshew, it's all terrible, but it's the Raiders. Okay, we're expecting them to be the Raiders. Moving on from that. The Patriots coaching staff. You've spent the first 5 weeks of the season watching Jacoby Brissett get murdered behind your offensive line. And what is your idea? Let's put Drake May back there. That's great. You know what we call that? That's called the Carolina Panthers playbook on how to ruin Bryce Young. Let's ruin Drake May before he even gets fucking started, because he's going to be running for his goddamn life all over the place. He took 4 sacks. Shout out to who had 3 of them. Incredible day by Will Anderson. Will Anderson is not a 3-sack-a-game guy. Yeah. You know who is? The offensive line for the Patriots. Terrible. Maybe they decided to put Drake May back there because he's mobile and can move around, and they just like, well, at least it won't look as bad on TV because this guy will get away from him, as opposed to Jacoby Brissett getting ran over on every play. Third thing, Dak Prescott. His 3rd red zone turnover in 2 weeks. When you go into a game against a conference contender like the Lions, and you have who? Micah Parsons not playing, D-Law not playing, and Eric Kendricks not playing. Not playing. You cannot make mistakes. And Dak comes out the first drive of the game. He drives the team all the way down, and you know the Lions are going to score. I would have bet every dollar I had that they were going to put up at least 30 points against you guys, because you got defensive injuries all over the place. Not a thing. I didn't put Mike Zimmer in the doghouse. I didn't put the Cowboys defense in the doghouse. Dak Prescott's in the doghouse. You cannot turn over the ball in the red zone 3 times in 2 games if you want to win in the National Football League. It's impossible. The pick was awful. And I got to be honest with you, I was texting you talking shit. It's my second favorite thing to do. And as soon as he threw that pick, I looked right to one of my guys sitting next to me. I said, it's a wrap. They're done. They're not coming back from this. He's going to go into his shell. Mike McCarthy's not going to be as aggressive on the play calling. Yeah. You cannot turn the ball over in the red zone. So Gerard Mayo, Antonio Pierce, and Dak Prescott, they're hanging out in my doghouse.
Man, we got a lot of coaches in there, and I think I should throw another one in. One more coach, and I'm going to throw an owner in there as well. And that's going to be Doug Peterson and Shad Khan, the beautiful people who are over there, across the pond right now in London. Quote from Doug Peterson: obviously, we've lost some games here. Some is an understatement. So we want to change that culture to a winning culture. It's insane that you're saying that you want to change the culture to a winning culture 6 weeks into the season. You know how well that's going to go? Have you ever tried changing a tire while going 60 miles an hour on the freeway? It just doesn't work. It's not going to work, and it's done. It's over for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'm sure if you've watched one singular game for the Jacksonville Jaguars, you could have known that. And then let's go ahead and top it all off when the Jacksonville Jaguars, especially on defense, doesn't show any type of urgency. And then the safety, Andre Cisco, is being interviewed by one of the Jacksonville Jaguars or one of the Jacksonville television stations in the locker room. He said that the defensive players quit in the second half of the game. And then Doug Peterson comes out and says, I don't think Andre Cisco's comments were really malicious or showed a fractured locker room. Bro, what are you reading? Like,
because they were true?
Like what? Like
you're right. It didn't fracture the locker room because what he said was actually true. Yeah, they did quit on him. We got Snapchat messages on Sunday, right? Asking you and I both our opinion because clearly with our 111 subscribers, we are fucking football gods, and they wanted to know what's wrong with the Jaguars. Is it the coaching or the players? And I thought it's a little bit more than that. But this team, which on paper should be more talented than this, looks like they've quit on their coaching staff.
Absolutely. And when you listen, Trevor Lawrence is not infallible this season. He's made mistakes. He's looked mediocre at times. But when you go and you look at what the offense has done for him, the blocking schemes are bad. The running backs are non-existent outside of Tank Bigsby when he can play. Travis Etienne has looked awful this season. Evan Ingram's barely even played. Brian Thomas looks good. He had a couple of drops this last week, though. And Christian Kirk's looks awful. Like, these guys don't look good. And Trevor Lawrence is doing what he can. Again, he's not infallible, but if you're going to pay a quarterback this much money, you have to surround him as much talent as possible. And then this is why Shad Cotton is going in the doghouse as well, because then you sign Gabe Davis to this massive contract as well. I could have told you that Gabe Davis was not going to be very good, that he's a spotty type receiver and he's going to have games, but he's not great. He's a deep threat, but on the deep threats, he has a crazy amount of drops. He looks awful. His release on those deep routes is not very good. He's not getting any type of separation. I could have told you these things, but Shad Khan decides before the season even starts and says, I think this is the best team we've ever assembled in team history. It's a short team history. So people who were alive for the entire existence of this organization and watched this entire thing can attest to that this team is probably sitting at 1-5, not the best team in team history. Again, 6 games they've won one time. They've looked flat, toothless. They look like they have no fight, and the culture change needs to happen apparently to the coach right now in week 6. It's not going to happen. Doug Peterson needs to go in the doghouse. I think that's a big issue there with the coaching staff, especially when the defense looks this bad. You shelled out the entire defensive coaching staff over the offseason. It still looks piss poor. This now goes on your plate. This now goes on your shoulders. Shad Khan goes in there for signing Gabe Davis and setting the expectation so high for the Jacksonville Jaguars fans, because I understand what it means for to be a fan of a team and an owner come out and set expectations for an offseason or for a season and be disappointed. Both those guys deserve to go and stay in the doghouse until the end of the season, or until Doug Peterson gets fired.
I have one more.
Okay.
I'm going to list a couple names to you, and you're going to get one. But do you know who Bobby Hoying is?
Nope.
Do you know who Gary Morangi is?
Nope.
Okay. Do you know who Archie Manning is?
Oh, I know that one.
Okay. This is the list of players that averaged less than 3.37 yards per dropback in an NFL season. Those 3 guys and Deshaun Watson.
Hey, dude, he's pretty good.
Dude, so I'm not putting Deshaun Watson in the doghouse. You put him there in last week. I'm putting the Cleveland Browns owner. So now we got the highest paid quarterback in the league, Dak Prescott. Highest paid player in the league, correct?
Yep, correct.
I know. I just wanted to hear you say it.
Oh, fuck you.
Dak is in the doghouse. Antonio Pierce is in the doghouse. Mayo's in the doghouse, right?
Yep.
And the owner of the Browns is in the doghouse because there's no fucking way that the coaching staff of the Browns is like, yep, let's keep rolling Deshaun Watson out there.
Nope, no shot. It's them. Nope.
There used to be an argument a couple years. I remember it was going around sports talk radio. The Cowboys' offensive line was so good. The argument was, could an average person get a 3-yard gain behind that offensive line? If you gave him 3 handoffs, could he get 3 yards? That's how good the offensive line is. I think the average person could play quarterback better than Deshaun Watson right now. I think the Browns should call up Jamarcus Russell and let him play. Could Trey Lance be worse than this? Could he really? And he's cheap. Just trade for him. It can't be. It could not be any worse than this shit. The dude, it's lackluster. He doesn't want to be out there. He makes all his money. You're not going to be able to do anything about it. Just sit his ass on the bench and move on with life. Yep. You got Jameis Winston going viral every week because he seems like a great, loving guy. Sure, he's going to throw 30 interceptions, but he's going to throw 30 touchdowns. Isn't that exciting?
Yep.
And then
for 30, baby.
And then the way they decide to remedy it is like, oh, well, let's just get rid of Amari Cooper. That'll make us better.
The thing with Amari too is he gives up on teams and plays, and he gives up on that stuff too. So they're like, oh, Amari's the problem. It's like, I don't know if you're actually watching these games. And now the thing is you're wasting the prime of all of these players, right? Great players, right? You have Denzel Ward, you have Greg Newsome, you have JOK, you have Myles Garrett. You have good defensive core guys, and you're wasting their careers away because you refuse to do anything right now about Deshaun Watson. Just bench him. I know you can't do anything financially with him. I know that. $172 million for the next 2 years. I get it. Or next 2 years after this season. Okay. $72 million. $72 million for the next 2 years after this season. I get it. I understand. But just sit him down. Just sit him down. And I know it's not on Kevin Stefanski. He's a great coach, and we know he's a good coach. This isn't on him. I'm totally on board with you on this one because it's definitely not the coaching staff. No, I don't think anyone really wants him out here at this point. If you don't have anything else to add for our doghouse, we're going to go ahead and move on. Let's go ahead and hit up our top 10 power rankings for week 6. We're very rapidly.
Where's the intro music?
I don't have any intro music for this one, dude. I'm sorry.
God damn it, Jacob. I'm going to put you in the doghouse.
Yeah, well, all right, bro. We're very rapidly approaching only a couple of weeks away from the trade deadline, halfway through the season. Once we hit that week 8, it's going to be exciting to talk about. We already have some trade news before the trade deadline to talk about in this segment. So, or not in this segment, but in today's show. So definitely going to be exciting. But before we get into any of that, for week 6, we're going to go and hit up our power rankings. Spoiler alert. If you watched last week's rankings, my rankings are going to be too much different just because a lot of these teams either were on bye week or they all won their game. So it's kind of hard to reshuffle them around, just in my opinion. So, for just missed the cut, Drew, who just missed the cut right outside your top 10?
I had a team that I have been really high on since the offseason. They debuted in my power rankings 2 weeks ago and unfortunately have fallen out. It just comes down to at this point, I'm trying to get ahead of the curve a little bit and seem smarter than I am as into what's to come. And so coming in at 11th, really 10.5. Coming in at 11th this week is the Washington Commanders.
Okay. Yeah. So you said what's coming is their schedule pretty rough coming up.
I just think the Commanders, if you put them against all these teams in the top 10, they're expected to take the L. They played a really good team this week, and it was competitive-ish. But if we were thinking, if this was the Bills that played the Ravens, if it was the Chiefs that played the Ravens, the Lions, the 49ers, any of these teams, and we were just like, wow, the Ravens kind of handled that ass. Like, we would drop those teams also. We're giving the Commanders credit because they stuck around and made it competitive, but that's not, we don't give teams in the top 10 credit. Teams in the top 10 need to win, especially against other teams in the top 10. So I had to drop the Commanders out. I'm anxious to get him back in because I love Jayden Daniels. I've been on it from the start with him. I think he's going to be a fantastic quarterback in this league, but they came in at 11th for me.
Yeah. You and I already had this discussion about missing out on this team and having a hard time putting him in because everyone else in front of them, except for one team, won this week. and that's the Niners still sitting at my 11 spot. I just couldn't slide them back in. The 10 spot won, the 9 spot lost. But the rest of the guys in my 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, all 1, 3, 1, and then 1 and 2 ended up going on bye week. So, it's kind of hard to slide them in when I already had them out. For you had the Niners in last week, so it wasn't hard to keep them in or move them up the board at all. So it was a little bit difficult for me to slide them in there. So they just missed the cut. Wouldn't be surprising if they end up moving up. Actually, they move up pretty significantly if they win next week. So next week's gonna be a little bit exciting to see how that one runs, because it's definitely gonna be a big change in the power rankings.
Fuck the Chiefs.
If the Niners win and the Vikings win, the Vikings will actually end up finally supplanting the number 1 spot, because the Chiefs have not moved off of that since our preseason ranking. So again,
well, I'll tell you what,
that one.
If the Niners win and the Vikings lose, there still might be a new number 1.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, okay. Sitting at the number 10 spot, I have the Green Bay Packers. Who's your number 10?
Who do the Cowboys play this week?
We're on bye week.
Oh, okay. I don't have to buy a hat this week then. That's good. Coming in at number 10, I have the Green Bay Packers.
Okay. Yeah. So they ended up picking up. I'm on the wrong thing.
Come on, get your act together.
I know. Go ahead and pick it up while I get the correct thing up.
Why don't you hit the clock thing like you did to me when I was searching something up?
No, dude. See, I already have it. What are you talking about? So, Packers ended up picking up a win against the Arizona Cardinals, 34-13. It was kind of nice to see Jordan Love and this offense actually pick themselves up a little bit. Romeo Doubs coming back into the lineup and then picking up 2 touchdowns immediately. So that was kind of cool to see him immediately be brought back into the fold. I think there was a lot made of what was going on with him in his kind of off the field disgruntledness, but I'm not sure if it was even that. It sounds like it was more mental health thing. So if that's really the truth, fully support him in that. And if he needed to take the week off for that, totally on that one. So they're at my number 10 spot. They look good. Their offense looked good. Next week is going to be pretty exciting looking at the schedule. They face the Houston Texans, who are going to be a lot higher in my power ranking. So a lot of changes to the top 10 with this matchup here. So the Packers and Texans, and we already talked about the Niners and Chiefs that are going to happen this week too. So that's going to be exciting for just 2 games. Going to be some shuffling around for that top 10 for sure. So.
Oh, slight callback to the doghouse. Let's put the NFL in the doghouse by not flexing the Packers-Texans game and instead making us watch the fucking Jets-Steelers game.
Oh, that's exciting. Oh, we get to watch Russell Wilson. Oh my
That's
gosh.
some bullshit watching Russell Wilson.
Aren't we just so blessed in life to be able to just get that?
I can already tell you right now, spoiler alert to next week when we put Mike Tomlin in the doghouse when their dumbasses lose to the Jets and Russell Wilson looks like shit.
Hey, dude.
We'll get there.
He's been, ready. He's been dressed in pads every single week, so you can't say he's not.
Oh
prepared,
my God, I hated that so much. Yeah, the Packers, they finally look good this week. They've been winning. They haven't looked great, but they've been winning, so that's where they're at now. Obviously, Evan Williams, he's mentioned number 1 safety ranked in the PFF in the league right now, I think.
Oh, McKinney.
Evan Williams.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously McKinney has been. Did he get a pick this week?
No, I don't think.
All right, perfect. All right, perfect. I took some flack for the under on that, but I'm just like, they're not going to throw to him anymore, I think. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think you better hope for that one. I'm just double checking to make sure that he didn't actually pick up a pick. There was a pick. Oh, it wasn't him.
Oops.
So I think you're actually solid on that one. So far so good. My number 9 spot is a team that just missed the cut for you, and it is the Commanders. Yes, they lost. They were 2 spots higher than this. They were sitting at the 7 last week, so dropped 2 spots, putting up a good fight against the Baltimore Ravens, who sit inside of my top 5 for my power rankings. So this is a team that's not supposed to be here. We all know that. And their upcoming weeks are going to be pretty laxed. The Panthers, the Bears, they have a interdivision matchup with the Giants. Then they have the Steelers, and then the Eagles, and then the Cowboys. I mean, it seems to be kind of cakewalky outside of the interdivision stuff. Their next real hard matchup, I would say, outside the interdivision stuff, is they have the Falcons, and that's like week 16. I'm not really worried about them. I mean, the Steelers defense with Jaden Daniels will be interesting to see. Just the rookie watch stuff is going to be fun. But outside of that, I think the Commanders are going to run away with the division pretty easily, and you're going to see it in the next 5 weeks. As soon as they pick up a couple more division wins, they're going to be pretty comfortable inside the top 10. I'm not sure what that's going to look like for the success in the playoffs, but for now, they're going to sit at the number 9 spot and probably going to move up just a little bit as the season progresses on. Who's your 9?
I went with the Atlanta Falcons.
Okay, and I have them at my number 8.
Tell me why.
I think when it comes to we're already at that point. When it comes to the teams at 7-1, it's teams that are they're better than this team, and I believe in more at this point. And I know we had a conversation about a certain quarterback a little bit on a certain team that's going to pop up here really soon for me. I had some really early season concerns about the Falcons and struggling a little bit. They finally put a team away 38-20, I believe the score was for the Carolina Panthers, but it is the Carolina Panthers, but at least they finally put a team away. So I'm not really going to move them up too much. They beat that team, but they're like the worst team in the league or second worst team in the league. So they won. They set the 8th spot. I can't move them any higher than the guys I have in front of them because I just believe in them a little bit more. And those other guys won by a pretty significant amount, or they're just way better teams. What about for
Fair
you?
enough.
So they're at the 9 spot for you, right?
Yep.
Is it the same thing for you?
What?
For them sitting at the 9 spot, is it just like 1 through 8? The teams are just better. It doesn't come down to them being worse or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I have the 49ers at number 8. Nobody's taking the Falcons to beat the 49ers. The 49ers are second in passing yards. They're third in rushing yards. They're second in total yards. They're a top 5 ranked defense. They're a top 5 ranked offense. They're first in their division. Their best player is hurt. One of their best defenders is hurt. Their safety's on the IR. It's just a lot has gone wrong early in the season for the 49ers. Their first round pick got shot in his chest and is back practicing. Everything's gone wrong for the 49ers, and here we are. They're in first place in their division, and they have a weakened Chiefs team. Now, I know the schedule, the record is the record, but this is not a full-fledged Chiefs team. They got a floundering Cowboys team after that, which is a get-right game for the Cowboys if they come out and thump the 49ers.
I think you just complimented us saying floundering.
You're welcome.
That might be the nicest thing you could say about us right now.
And then the week after that, they have a showdown with the team that I elevated to number 7, and that is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, so I know that's going to surprise you, but so I went to go do a shit ton of research to explain to you why the Buccaneers are not a top 10 team in the NFL. Yeah. And in doing all that research to present an argument to you that they are not a top 10 team in the NFL, I moved them to the 7th best team in the NFL based off of that research. So I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in at number 7. They've scored the most points in the league this year, tied with the Commanders, which is super impressive. They have the top 3 best wide receiver duo in the league in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. I mean, what are the arguments there? Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs, maybe, or you're going to argue a Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I mean, there's a couple arguments to be made. The 49ers have a top 5, top 6 group, but then there's this guy on their team, and we already talked about him, but I don't know if you knew who Sean Tucker was before the game started. I don't think you did, because he had 7 fucking rushing yards the entire season. And then he explodes for 194 scrimmage yards. And frankly, when you got Baker Mayfield, a.k.a. Brett Favre, back there, and he's just going to huck the shit deep every single time, Cade Otton's out there. They're just doing the damn thing. Yeah. And honestly, they're hella fun to watch. And when I look at a team that I'm afraid to play, the Buccaneers are on that list. So they go into 7 for me.
How could you not love Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now in this moment?
You could be a Browns fan. Oh, no, not a Browns fan. I'm sorry. I apologize. You could be the Browns owner. He doesn't like Baker.
Yep, that's probably what it is. I think we're going to find out. These next 4 weeks are super important to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Super important. We're going to find out exactly who this team is by the time November 10th at about 1:30, when all of it's said and done. After all 4 weeks, we're going to find out who this team is. Next week, they have the Baltimore Ravens on Monday Night Football. Then they have the Atlanta Falcons, and they already had a great overtime matchup. So another fun interdivision matchup. Then they have the Chiefs, and then they have the 49ers. That's 4 weeks of tough teams who are all fighting for playoff spots or pretty much guaranteed playoff spots at this point. So 4 weeks of just challenging teams. And then after that, they have the Giants, the Panthers, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Cowboys, the Panthers, and then the Saints. So a little bit of an easier schedule down the stretch to help them make a playoff push. But in terms of playoff success and how much we value this team, these 4 weeks are going to be the most essential to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers entire season. They did just beat the Saints 51-27. It's a great showing. Even with Baker not playing amazing in the first half, cleaning all that stuff up, playing fantastic in that second half. And again, 4 weeks, 4 matchups, all really important. We're going to find out who this team is very, very, very quickly. When it comes to the number 6 spot, once again, Drew and I both have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 7. At the number 6 spot, I have the Buffalo Bills. Not sure if you have same place, same exact.
I think we're going to have a small movement here. But that's
you
it.
And I. Yeah.
But for the most part, I think we're going to be locked in. The Bills remain at 6 for all the reasons said before. They won again this week, so you can't drop them lower than where they were at last week. They beat a team that's not that good, but it doesn't matter. You got to beat those teams. And they stay at 6 because the teams in front of them are winning also. So,
yep. Next crucial game for the Buffalo Bills is going to be November 17th against the Chiefs. And then right after that, they're going to have the Niners. And then they also play the Lions this year, which is going to be a little bit exciting. They play the Jets once again. So that's going to be fun to watch to see how they kind of come out. But these next couple weeks are going to be kind of cakewalky for them. Titans, see how the Seahawks kind of fold up to see if they can even put up a fight. The Dolphins are the Dolphins. We'll see when or if Tua is going to come back. Hopefully,
Mike McDaniel said he is.
Yeah, I know he did. I kind of hope they just kind of tank and just sit him for the whole year. Let him come back next year. Tank for a top player in the draft, and then just move on to your next year.
If they're going to sit Tua out and they're going to tank, do you move Tyreek?
Yes. From what I've very, very lightly looked at for this wide receiver class, I would move him. So that would be my decision. So as much as Tyreek is fantastic, and that's maybe the only good thing happening for the Dolphins right now, you definitely get something in return for Tyreek right now. But so they just beat number 6 Buffalo Bills. They just beat the New York Jets as well. 3 points. Aaron Rodgers miscommunication with Mike Williams there at the end. 2 minutes left. Was not sure how that's really going to go. A bunch of penalties. It was kind of a weird game. So it'll be a fun matchup to see it all come to fruition once again November 17th comes down to it.
Shout out to Mike Williams. He's kind of a trash can.
Yeah, that's fair. Who's your number 5 spot?
At the number 5 spot, I have the Jacob Taylor Super Bowl champion anointed Texans. They came out and beat up on a Patriots team that's not any good on any phase of the ball. And they did what they needed to do. Shout out to Tank Dell, who had his resurgence this week. He's been MIA all season with Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins doing that damn thing. And they went in, they got a dub.
Yeah, another great matchup for this week in terms of power rankings is the Texans play the Packers this week. So
fantastic
to see. So there's
fantastic game.
There's a lot to definitely to look at this week. This week 7 slate is going to be fun for me. The number 5 spot is going to be the Baltimore Ravens.
Hater.
I am not a hater. I am just a big believer in the Texans, who are higher, and then the Lions, who are higher, and then the other 2 teams who went on bye weeks. You can't really move them around. So Ravens go 5.
Don't you think that the Ravens beating the Commanders is more impressive than the Texans beating the Patriots?
Yeah, but I'm high believers in them, and they whooped them, and they took care of business. They did what they needed to do.
So if the Texans played the Ravens this week, who would you pick?
I picked the Texans.
All right.
I would. Coming up in the next week for the Ravens is they have the Buccaneers. They just came off of a win against the Commanders, 7-point win there. So again, we already kind of went over the game with the Bucs. It's gonna be really fun to see Monday night matchup. That might end up being the game of the week, but again, we've had like 3 or 4 games we're kind of keeping an eye on. The rest of the schedule looks kind of tough in terms of like a lot of their division games are always really challenging for anyone who's playing in the division. The Browns, Bengals, the Steelers, all 3 of them within the next 4 weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see, but this Ravens team is really talented. We talked about it last week, Lamar Jackson, and how good he's been playing. 3rd MVP, potentially loading at this point. He's even better than last year, like head and shoulders above. He looks fantastic. He looks comfortable in this offense for the 2nd year in a row. So again, number 5 spot is going to be that Baltimore Ravens team for me. And then,
I cannot wait for the Ravens Tampa Bay game. Oh my gosh, that's going to be a great game.
For your number 4 spot, who'd you go with?
The Ravens.
Okay, cool.
I mean, we can poll 100 people. Hey, is it the Ravens or the Texans? And it's probably somewhere split 50-50. So I can live with there. That's fine. Lamar's on his way towards another MVP. And if the Ravens and the Ravens and the Texans played tomorrow and they played 10 times, it would probably be a lot of split games. I'm not sure if I would be as confident as you are that the Texans take that home, but that's why I have them at 4 and you have the Texans at 4, and that's cool. That we're going to bounce that back and forth all year, I think.
Well, I have the Lions at 4, so.
Oh yeah, the Texans even higher.
Yeah, the Texans haven't moved from 3 in like weeks, dude.
Jeez,
they haven't moved. They were at 2 for a long time, and then they went for like a couple of weeks, and they moved down a spot for the Vikings. So Lions is sitting at the 4 spot. It's nothing to slide against the Lions. Obviously, their offense is churning. It's moving. Jared Goff looks good. J-Mo looks good. Amon-Ra looks good. The 2-headed monster in the backfield looks fantastic. Offensive line, fully fronted, ready to go. Everyone looks awesome. But I've been on this front for before the season started about the Texans, and I'm not going to hold off on it when they're winning games and they're beating teams, and the only loss is coming off of the Vikings, who sit higher than them. So for me,
you're not going to like this.
The Lions sit at 4. And then for you, I'm guessing Lions at 3.
Nope.
Oh my gosh, you moved the bye week team, huh?
I moved the Vikings down.
You moved the Vikings down. Okay, well, so you just run through the rest of your list 3-1.
Vikings, Lions, Chiefs.
And I went Texans, Vikings, Chiefs.
The Vikings are not a better football team than the Lions. That defense is playing lights out, but you're going to see it this week. Spoiler alert, I won't get too far into it, but Sam Darnold, he's been okay. He has not been good in recent weeks. He's come back down to earth a little bit, and we're going to see that fully manifest itself on Sunday.
Okay. Yeah. I still have the Vikings and Chiefs there, just because.
In fairness, if the Vikings lose, they're dropping, correct?
They are dropping, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
So if Detroit comes out and beats the brakes off of the Vikings like no team has done this week, and the Chiefs lose to the 49ers, you don't see a path to the Lions getting to number 1?
I'd have to see how the Texans beat the Packers to make that full decision. But yes, there's definitely a path, a very comfortable path to number 1. There's
going to be some power rankings shaking up this week. What if the Buccaneers beat the Ravens? That's going to shake some shit up, because if the Buccaneers beat the Ravens, they might get into my top 4, because now they're kicking everybody's ass.
Yep. Yeah.
So, and I tried to leave them out this week. Good thing I didn't. I might look like a dumbass that come out and beat the Ravens. Hey, how did you take them from 12-3? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, when it comes to the scheduling this week, I think that
shout out to the NFL.
The most insignificant one in the top 10 for me is the Panthers versus the Commanders. So see how that one goes. But Packers versus Texans, and then Bucks versus Ravens, and then you have the Lions. There's a lot going on this week, and it's going to be pretty exciting to see how it all kind of shakes out.
And even that game, Washington smashing Carolina, that's going to be fun. The other thing to keep an eye out on is we didn't go too far into our missed. I talked about leaving the Commanders out this week, but if Pittsburgh comes out and beats New York, they move to 5-2. That's going to be an interesting conversation to have. So,
absolutely. So
that 10 spot is going to fluctuate a lot this year, I think.
Yep.
So
I think I'm curious to see how much is even going to solidify by the time we even get to like week 12 to see how much people really solidify themselves as the concrete 10. I think there might be pretty solid shakeups from like 8 to 12, I think, depending on how things end up moving and shaking. But yeah, I would agree with that. Moving off of our power rankings into our other headlines of week 6. What's funny is we were supposed to record yesterday, but pretty glad we didn't. No, absolutely okay.
It was Indigenous Peoples Day. Okay, I was celebrating.
There's that, and we end up having you get a trade, and you get a trade, and you.
Oh, we love Oprah.
Oh, and you get benched, which we'll talk about as well. So there's a lot of things that happened this week. We were going to talk about the Cowboys and Chargers, but we ended up scrapping that. We'll talk about that another week.
Hold on. Let me pull up my notes. Trades. I wasn't prepared to talk about the Kings trading Jaden McDaniels. So let me pull up my. Oh, wait. Sorry. Wrong podcast. Yeah. All right. What? NFL trades. Got it. Perfect.
Let's go ahead and start out with the Davante Adams trade. The Jets are sending a conditional third-round draft pick that can become a second-round pick if he is either a first-team or second-team All-Pro this season or on an active roster for the AFC Championship game or Super Bowl. It's not going to happen, but the other two things definitely have a chance. The ESPN also reports that Adams restructured his contract upon the deal to reduce his salary cap number to $3.21 million for the remainder of the season. And then Adams' salary cap previously stood at $11.59 million. His restructured contract now has 2 remaining voidable years. 2 sides plan to discuss his long-term future in New York and the offseason. Before we really dive in deep on this, excuse me, I just want to say, if the same motherfucker from TikTok is watching, fuck you, because you weren't close. I don't know if you saw that same dude who was like, I would give a third for Adams only if the Raiders sent a first on top of that. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's fucking stupid. And then today, that video was from October 2nd. October 2nd, he goes back to that saying, goes, I wasn't that far off. Bro, you were talking about another first-round pick, and this is a conditional third. You're fucking dumb. You have no idea what you're talking about. Stop fucking talking. We have a podcast. Of course we know what we're talking about. That's always how that works. So, but talking about the Davante Adams trade, how does this really impact both sides and significantly?
Does it?
You don't think it does that much?
I kind of outlined it. Garrett Wilson's a better wide receiver than Davante at this point in his career, and it's really not doing anything. And they made a concentrated, effort to get Garrett Wilson involved. I mean, getting Mike Williams' corpse off the field, I guess, is a win for them. But
fall apart at any moment.
The one thing about Davante, I wrote down a statistic here that I'm going to read because it's really far away. Is his route versatility. He's got an 83.6 PFF grade when it comes to slants, outs. Basically the route tree that you want to see a wide receiver run. And when you have Mike Williams, who literally just runs go routes, and then you have routes. Facts. And then you have, who's the other guy that's been with the Packers and been with Lazard? I was thinking of Scantling because he was released today. Lazard, he really only does one thing. So it's definitely going to bring a new layer, but I still just don't think the offense is going to be good enough, which is disappointing. I mean, you have Breece Hall, you have Garrett Wilson, I just don't think Aaron has it anymore. Like he can't move around that much. And frankly, if they go down this road and they're not any good and they miss the playoffs, is he coming back next year? Is he going to Brett Favre his way out of the Jets to go to a different team the year after? Is he going to be a Minnesota Viking quarterback next year? Like, I don't think Davante moves the needle all that much. And I think you saw it in the compensation that he came with. And, maybe they'll have the connection back, but Are the Jets with Devontae Adams beating the Texans? Are they beating the Bills? Are they beating the Ravens?
Nope. Nope.
So I don't think it moves the needle most.
I think too that with the season how it's gone for the Jets is it's almost too little too late when it comes to you took away the play calling away from Nathaniel Hackett and then you fired your head coach. I don't know what you're expecting from your season after you do something like that. You have the offensive play calling kind of shifting hands at this point, and you fired your head coach. I don't know what you're expecting. I don't know what you want your finish to your season to be. I don't think you're going to be making really a playoff push at this point. I don't think you're even close to that. And I don't think Davante Adams is going to make that much of a significant difference. I think Garrett Wilson will end up getting more looks, and I think he'll end up having a better season. So from week 7 to week 18, I think he's going to be better. I think he's going to be a better wide receiver with better numbers because of the attention that Davante Adams is going to pull away a little bit. So I think the thing that affects the most is going to be Garrett Wilson. I think that's going to be the most affected thing in this entire thing. So
what about on the other side?
The Raiders are in shambles at this point, so I don't even know if it really matters that much. You don't even know who your quarterback is. We don't know who the head coach is. Max Crosby doesn't look like he likes people very much sometimes. So I'm not so sure about
What's so funny?
That's pretty good. That's funny.
What? I don't get it. What's so funny?
I don't. It's anyways. So I think this is a good deal for them. I think this gets a wide receiver off of their hands that they don't. You're having a really fun time with Max Crosby in different jerseys, aren't you?
let me explain something to you. So here's the thing. The Raiders hit rock bottom, right? They just traded away their best offensive player. They continue to trade for these players that don't do shit for them. Richard Seymour, Randy Moss, Carson Palmer, Davante Adams. They just don't move the needle for them. They never do anything. Matter of fact, since we're talking about the Raiders, and you know how much I love the Raiders because I'm wearing their jersey. The only reason I'm wearing their jersey is it was free. Mark Davis took over the Raiders in 2012. Shout out again to my guy, Josh Dubow. Their win percentage since 2012, 28th in the league. Points per game, 28th in the league. Points allowed per game, 32nd in the league. Points differential, 30th in the league. Playoff berth, a 5-way tie for 27th with 2. Playoff wins. They are last since 2012. Do you know what they're first in since 2012?
No.
Head coaches, 7.
God damn. Yeah.
So this is my thing. The roster is terrible. It just is. You got Brock Bowers. That's cool. He's a rookie. Okay. You got nothing else at wide receiver. You got nothing at running back. You got Zamir Who and Alexander, I'm slower than a bag of dirt, Madison. On defense, you got Tyree Wilson, I think, whoever that guy is. And then you got a top 5 defensive player in the NFL and Max Crosby. So what's going to happen is you're going to have a huge draft class this offseason and next offseason. You're going to have to get a real coach in there, a Ben Johnson, something like that. By the time the Raiders are ready to compete, by the time the Raiders are ready to be good, 2 things have happened. Max Crosby's contract is either up and he wants more money, or Max Crosby's like, get me the fuck out of here. And he's going to request a trade. So what you do is you strike where the iron's hot. There is a team that now has a massive need at pass rusher, and that is the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions called them up. They see what is it going to take. The Detroit Lions go all in on their Super Bowl push this year, and they trade for Max Crosby. If you're the Raiders, it just makes too much sense to move them. What are you keeping them around for? It's not to sell tickets because your stadium is sold out every Sunday anyway. Not with your fucking fans. Here's another stat. The Pittsburgh Steelers against the Raiders, they are 2-0 in Las Vegas. Do you know what they were against the Raiders in Oakland? 1-9. The Pittsburgh Steelers could not win in Oakland because the Raiders had home field advantage. Do you know what they don't have in Las Vegas? They don't have a home field advantage. So you don't have to worry about selling tickets. You don't have to worry about selling jerseys because they give them away for free. You might as well move them for draft picks. He does he or does he not get the Jalen Ramsey package when Ramsey went from the Jags to the Rams? You can't get first in back-to-back years and a third, first in back-to-back years and a fourth for Max Crosby.
Yep. No,
it just
absolutely can.
It just makes too much sense. You're going to go quarterback in the first round, and then you need a top flight corner. You need a top flight offensive tackle. You need talent all over the place. And Max Crosby's you're not winning anyway. So I don't think Devontae to the Jets moves the needle for the Jets.
Yeah.
It's going to be a 4th round pick because he's not going to hit any of those incentives. Maybe a 3rd round pick, but you can get a lot for Max Crosby, and you can pair up some more talent with Brock Bowers, who's going to be an elite playmaker in this league once he gets off the Raiders and goes to his next team. And you just start to rebuild this from the bottom. And that starts with the coaching staff. This Antonio Pierce debacle is a joke. And I get it. You're still paying Gruden a shit ton of money. You're still paying, who's the dude from the Patriots that sucks at being a head coach? You're still paying Josh McDaniels a bunch of money, but that's why you're bringing in a new owner, because you're pushing Mark Davis out anyway. So wholesale Max Crosby off the Raiders, wholesale Mark Davis to the back, and let Tom Brady run the show, and let's just get this thing going, and let's make the Las Vegas Raiders great again.
The other trade that ended up happening today, Amari Cooper traded to the Buffalo Bills. The Bills announced that they are receiving Cooper and a 6th-round pick, a 2025 6th-round pick. Cleveland is going to receive a 2025 3rd-round pick and a 2026 7th-rounder in return. With this trade, for me, I think this is the polar opposite of the Jets. I think this does make a significant impact, and immediately. Amari Cooper has the immediate chance to play for a far more competitive team, a far better quarterback, probably I want to do this. Maybe the best quarterback he's ever played for.
Let's go!
Okay. And he's coming onto a team that he immediately leads in a lot of major statistical categories. Khalil Shakir had 249 yards and 2 touchdowns up to this point in 6 weeks, and he was significant. But Amari Cooper is already coming in and leading the team in yards immediately. Keon Coleman ends up following that with 201 yards and 2 touchdowns. And what this does for the Browns is it leaves them with no offensive weapons. I mean, you have Nick Chubb coming back with no knees. Well, I guess that's kind of cool. But I think the return is pretty good. It's better than trading Amari Cooper for just a 5th-round pick. I think that's a lot better. So I don't know who the hell would do that, but that owner must be fucking stupid or senile or something. But Amari Cooper has 24 receptions, 250 yards, and 2 touchdowns in 6 games. Again, leads a lot of statistical categories for the Bills. I think this gives Josh Allen a de facto 1, gives him a target that he can consistently go to and comfortably go to. This isn't a deep shot target. This is a guy who's going to get open and be your safety blanket. But if you need him to do other things, he can as well. He's had a little bit of drop problems this year. I think hopefully those will get cleaned up. So I think Amari Cooper is going to make a major impact on this Buffalo Bills team immediately. What about you?
He's been awful this year, so it's hard to say one way or another. But I just think that that's a lot on Deshaun Watson. And frankly, listen, I know you touched on this real quick, and I have to make a point here. Anytime that you can trade away one of the best route runners in the league for a 5th-round pick so you can overpay Michael Gallup, you just have to take that opportunity. He's the 77th ranked wide receiver in the league this year, Amari Cooper. I don't know where Michael Gallup is ranked, but I don't think it's 77th. And he's had some drops this year, and things haven't been going well for him. But frankly, here's the thing. How motivated could you be when you got a trash can ass quarterback that the owner's forcing you to play because he paid him too much?
I would not be. I'd be less motivated to play for Deshaun Watson, catching balls from Deshaun Watson, because there's been a lot of people who's caught balls from Deshaun Watson, and I think there's a couple court cases for that. So I don't think Amari.
I tell you what, most of the people that have caught balls from Deshaun Watson are getting paid. So maybe Amari Cooper is about to get paid.
Exactly. Yeah, no.
That's the sort of shit we can't do when we get famous, just so you know.
Yeah, that's fair. If it happens, if everyone keeps watching and keep hitting the like button, make sure you do that.
Come on, Mom. Yeah. Come on, Mom.
Right. I touched on the Amari Cooper thing a little bit when it comes to the the not being great aspect of it this year, and a lot of it I think has to come. It's the drops, right? So that I think that's his main issue this year. Hopefully that gets cleaned up, gets a little bit more motivated, which Amari Cooper has had issues in the past of being motivated. The Raiders, the Cowboys, I watched it every single week with him on how much he was he hurt? Was he hamstring issues? Was he there was a lot of questions there. And I know he was hurt at times. I'm not going to discredit him there, but yeah, so I think Amari's going to make an immediate impact for Josh Allen and this Buffalo Bills team. Moving on away from our trades is we have to talk about is Justin Fields being benched for Russell. I always wear my pads on the sidelines, Wilson. Quote from Mike Tomlin: last week we were scheduled for Russ to work in totality. He did that. Over the course of the week, I got comfortable with his ability to display his health. Now it's knocking off the rust. He did some of that last week. He's in consideration this week. We'll see where that leads us. Both guys at the quarterback position are scheduled to work tomorrow. We'll just walk it day by day, all geared towards putting ourselves in the best position to win a football game. While Fields did not do amazing things with his arm this past weekend, so end quote for Tomlin, but while Fields didn't do amazing things with his arm this past weekend, I think he puts the Steelers into a position to win because he didn't do anything to put them in a position to lose this past weekend. They won pretty significantly against the Raiders, and they're 4-2. And Justin's looked pretty good to the point where we can move Justin Fields out of Drew's office at this point. So
studio.
Out of his studio. 6 games, 66% of his passes have been completed for 1,106 yards and 5 touchdowns and only 1 pick on the season. And then obviously he's done his thing on the ground as well. So what are we doing here? Why are we playing Russell Wilson? What's the point? Where are we going with this? Why are we benching Justin Fields, who we ragged on before the season, to now where we have a much higher opinion of him because of what he's done in these 6 games? And again, being 4-2 and putting the Steelers into a position to actually win for a guy who's washed and injured and not the same guy. What are we doing?
Listen, they asked Big Ben Roethlisberger recently.
I saw that. Yep.
And he's like, I absolutely would not consider making a change. I don't understand. The Steelers are doing things well right now because Justin Fields has the ability to stay active, move the pocket, run for first downs. He's a dual threat. Russell Wilson is not that. And maybe people that haven't watched him recently, he was deteriorating before our eyes in Seattle. It was the most precious thing I've ever seen in my life, watching him suck. Then he goes to Denver and he's just an absolute, just terrible at freaking everything. And then they literally punted his ass to Pittsburgh, and now they're going to bench Justin Fields, which has not been confirmed. He's just taking first team reps, and he's considering to be starting on Sunday. But you're 4-2. Why are we thinking about making this change at this point? Russell Wilson doesn't move anymore. He doesn't scramble. He doesn't throw downfield. You don't have. It's a little bit of the problem that Jaden Daniels was having at the beginning of the year with the Commanders. Terry McLaurin was not taking a slant to the house, right? Yeah. This isn't Odell Beckham. The Steelers do not have a wide receiver room that is going to work under this dink and dunk offense that Russell Wilson has, that's what he is now. He's a dink and dunker. And I don't know. I hope they start him just so they can lose, so I can laugh about it next week.
So bad that the Broncos would rather eat the biggest dead caps ever in NFL history than continue to have him on the team and playing. Not just playing, but just on the team in general, just because of how much everyone in that Broncos organization ended up hating that man, especially Sean Payton. But we've already touched on the pads every single week, and he was just active last week, but he's been literally in pads every week. It's just the corniest shit we've ever seen. It's stupid. People don't really like him. He doesn't have the locker room, and it seems like Justin does. He seems like a likable guy that a lot of guys want to rally around, and Russell Wilson's not that guy.
Can I player A, player B you real quick?
Okay, go ahead.
All right, player A.
Okay.
1,337 yards passing.
Okay.
Total. I'm sorry. 1,337 total yards. A 66% completion rating, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 93.9 passer rating. Player A. Player B, 1,652 total yards, so 300 more. 68.3% completion rating, a little better. 10 total touchdowns, tied. 4 picks, so 3 more than player A, and a passer rating of 98.6, so a little bit better pass rating.
What was the completion percentage of the first guy?
66.3.
Okay. And the other guy was 63?
68.3.
68.3.
So he's got a little better completion rating, a little better yards, but he's thrown 3 more picks.
Now, the picks don't always tell the story when it comes to that stuff because it
could be drops.
Wide receivers. I'll take player B.
Okay. Player B is CJ Stroud. Player A is Justin Fields.
Yeah.
The conversation is able to be had.
Yep.
And I know it's total yards, and I get it, but that's what makes the threat of the Steelers offense. Nobody out there is afraid of George Pickens. I don't know what happened to my counterpart, Pat, out there in the Steelers, tight end situation, what's happened to him this year. He hasn't been doing much, but there's not much to Najee Harris, there's not much out there for the Steelers. And you're going to basically take these pieces that don't do much and they go because of Justin Fields' dual threat capability. And everybody knows, go back to every podcast I've ever done. I like to make fun of Justin Fields. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. He's been decent this year. They're 4-2. Switching to Russell Wilson is not the answer.
No, that doesn't put you in a winning position. Moving away from the news that happened this week, today alone, and moving into some of the stuff that happened on Sunday, we wanted to talk about 2 specific things. Number one, I want to talk about the starting debut for Spencer Rattler and for Drake May, and kind of just what we thought about each one of them. You kind of touched on the Drake May thing a little bit and you've touched on it before about the offensive line and the dangers of it. I asked the question to you if Drake May, or when will Drake May be seen this year? And the hopeful answer was we don't, because of the offensive line. And I think we saw those problems come to fruition this weekend. He got folded in half like a lawn chair. He got stepped on. He got landed on like a belly flop into a pool, and no remorse from. He looked pretty rough in terms of how much he got just kind of thrown around on Sunday against the Texans. And this is the same Texans team that gave Josh Allen a hard time. He went 9 for 30, 131 yards on the day, and that was. And then in week 2, they ended up harassing Caleb Williams and picked him off twice and sacked him 7 times. So Drake May did fine. He did fine. Okay. He on a curve, he did excellent, but he did fine. 243 yards, 3 touchdowns, 20 for 33 passing, also threw 2 interceptions, took 4 sacks and lost a fumble on top of it. First full NFL start. And when you're considering it against the Houston Texans, and this Texans defense is also given this a lot of other teams a lot of problems, I think he did pretty well. And again, considering that offensive line, I think they knew what they were doing when they drafted Drake May, right? They probably looked at their offensive line and said, damn, what's crazy about this offensive line? It looks like shit. You know what Drake May had in college? Nothing. He didn't have shit. He had nothing. A Tez Walker, who I don't even know if he's even played in Baltimore yet. Like, he's had nothing. And they're like, yeah, we should get that guy, because what we have in New England? Nothing. We don't have shit except for lobsters and the statue of Tom Brady in our minds. That's what we have, okay? They drafted Drake May because of that reason alone. I think they knew exactly what they were doing. I think that Drake May was New England's guy from the start, because all the other guys in the draft had something, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, like these guys had weapons around him. Michael Penix had weapons around him. Not Drake May. I think they knew exactly what he was doing. And again, on a curve, I think that Drake May did pretty well. I'm obviously a little bit biased because how much I believe in Drake May, because I love his arm talent. I love the mobile type of aspect he can bring to the team and what he can do with not a lot around him. So again, I'm a little bit more biased because how high I rank Drake May. What did you think about Drake May?
I thought he was fine. I mean, obviously you saw the talent, you saw the mobility, you saw the ability, but you also saw him running for his life a little bit. And I don't think that, obviously I'm not a professional coach. I'm not even a coach at anything. Actually, I probably should be a coach at work, but I don't even barely do that. So obviously they saw something. They made a decision. They went that route, and I guess they had seen enough of Jacoby Brissett, but to put Drake May out there at this point with a lack of talent and a lack of offensive line, and just kind of put him out there to kind of get beat up on, I don't know if it makes the most sense at this point. You already knew you were going to suck this year. Like, what was the expectation?
Yeah, again, I don't know what the pressure is in terms of like why they're pushing to start him so quickly. If it's a owner thing on wanting to see more, or what the deal is here. Yeah, offensive line looked bad, and he ran all over the place. And for the 2022-2023 season for FBS, he faced 409 pressures between those two seasons, the highest amount in those two seasons for any quarterback. He ran for like 953 yards between those two seasons, and you could see pretty much the exact same thing in New England. So he looked good. It just sucks that he has to start.
Where'd you find that at?
Just an article I pulled. It's in my notes.
I was trying to pull up how many times Drake May was sacked last year in 2023 at North Carolina. I bet it was not a very high amount.
Yeah, I don't think I have it, but yeah,
I'd be willing to bet he's sacked more this year in his half season than he was last year. And then at that point, what's the point of he's going to get hurt, beat to shit, And what if he just looks bad? Do you go back to Jacoby Brissett? What's that with his confidence? Do you continue to let him look bad? I don't know. I would have liked them to stick with Jacoby Brissett until he was out with injury. That way you could put Drake May in and play him, but then when Jacoby came back, you could pull Drake May back out if it wasn't looking as great as you'd wanted it to be.
Yeah, because two things happen right here if you play Drake May, right? So two of the worst case scenarios, right? Worst case scenario number one is he gets injured, right? That's the worst thing that can happen to Drake May. The other worst thing that can happen to Drake May is he gets Bryce Young. Absolutely ruined. He ruins his confidence, ruins how he plays coming out of college, and he can't do it anymore. Those are the two worst things. And when you're playing him on a team that is this bad, I think that possibility is out there, and I think it's on the forefront of a lot of people's minds at this point. When you're looking at the other quarterback that ended up starting this weekend, Spencer Rattler started for the New Orleans Saints in place of Derek Carr, and it sounds like he's actually going to go ahead and start the next couple of weeks since Derek is going to be out with injury for his oblique. So Spencer Rattler, I'll let you go ahead and take the front on this one. What do you think about his debut?
I have one more stat for you, and then I'll go to Spencer Rattler.
Okay.
Texans, Danielle Hunter registered the fastest sack in week 6, taking down Drake May in 3.06 seconds.
That's crazy.
That is not great.
Yeah. I feel like we're holding a funeral for Drake May. We're very solemn at this point for him.
Spencer Rattler, I was actually some of his off scheduled plays were pretty impressive. He was like 7 of 12 from outside the pocket for over 100 yards, and they talked about how some of that was just improvising. I don't know if this is him getting skittish in the pocket and leaving too early, but if you're going to get out of the pocket and you're going to make the plays, then maybe it's not that big of a deal anyway. But we also need him to be a pocket passer if he wants to continue on, because, that's what Derek Carr has done is he's hung in there. He's made the passes. They're 2-4. So it's kind of tough to say, but that offense lit one of our teams up. So we know it's talented, but I was okay with what Rattler did. I mean, it's just hard to say. It's one game, and there was no tape on him, and he was able to get outside the pocket, move around a little bit, and keep plays alive. So we'll see. I want him to get in. I haven't seen the injury reports yet. It's not Wednesday; it's Tuesday night, so we don't know if Derek Carr's coming back this week. But
sounds like he's not. I'd
like to see him get another game, especially since they are playing Denver this week.
They're playing the
So
Broncos. It's going to be. I was going to talk about that. So they scored 27 points in this game. You can't really gripe about that too much. The defense gave up 51. You can't really you score as much as you can, but they also only scored in one quarter. When you go scoreless 3 out of the 4 quarters, you can put a little bit on the offense. But again, it's 27 points. So you can't complain about that. Spencer played well, and I hope he does get another shot. When it comes to the Broncos, though, is Pat Surtain playing this week? I know he was out with concussion right at the beginning of the game last week.
yeah, I don't. Again, that's the only downfall to this early podcasting stuff is we don't have injury reports yet.
Yep, that's the only thing. I think that it's going to be bad next week. I will say that because how well that the Broncos defense has been playing.
He did not practice today.
Okay, well, they play a lot of cover 0, and a lot of that has to do with how much respect and how much how comfortable they are letting Pat Surtain sit on the outside. Also pair that up with Riley Moss. Shout out, he's had a great year this year, breakout season for him. So Riley Moss and Pat Surtain has really held together that entire defense, along with guys like on the defensive line, Zach Allen getting a lot of pressures up there, and he almost made it on there for defensive player of the week. He had 8 tackles, 0.5 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and a quarterback hit. So he was all over the place on the defensive line as well. So a lot of breakout guys for the Broncos playing really well. But the defensive coordinator's showing out, and he's doing a great job with them. Again, playing the most amount of cover 0 in the entire league, and it definitely shows. Moving on from the rookie quarterbacks, though, the last headline that I want to talk about before we move on to our snap decisions is a man that we already talked about a little bit, and is how significant is the injury to Aiden Hutchinson for the Lions' Super Bowl hopes? Like, how much are we now tempering our expectations because of the impact that Aiden has had this year has been major. It's 19 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, a forced fumble, and leading the entire league in pressures on top of that. He was on the path to securing his first defensive player of the year, and he's now down, and he's going to be out for the entire year. So how significant is this injury for the Lions' Super Bowl hopes, their conference championship hopes? How big is it?
I actually don't think it's as significant as you might think it'll be because they're going to solve their issue.
Stupid.
What?
I swear, how many of these have you had?
I just stay locked and loaded on my content, man. They need to make a they need to make a trade. They need to make a trade. They are not sniffing a Super Bowl without Aiden Hutchinson. I would call the Raiders and offer them anything. I would have already traded for Hassan Reddick, but that seems like some weird ass shit with him, with his agency firing him. That never happens. I can't wait for the story to come out on this whole thing.
But you hear that he's being allowed to seek a trade now?
Oh, is he?
He is, and he got a new agent too. I think it's Tyreek Hill's agent.
He should just show up in Detroit.
Just pop up.
You know how you see those little videos of how the player knows he gets cut because he goes to swipe his card and he can't get in?
Oh, dude, yeah, I hate that.
He should just go to the headquarters of the Detroit Lions and just knock.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm the Lions, I am. There was a clip today. Ian Rappaport was on the Pat McAfee show, and he's on his FaceTime on his phone, and the FaceTime went out for a little bit, and he's still talking, and then it comes back, and Pat's like, "What was that?" And Ian's like, "Oh, it was a phone call." And Pat's like, "I know it was a phone call. What was it? What was it? What was it?" And he's like, and he's like, Was it the Lions trading for a player?" And Ian was like, "It was not the Lions." And Pat was like, "Was it somebody asking what the Lions will give up to trade for a defensive pass rusher?" And Ian was like, Pat, like the phone calls are happening. I guarantee you the Lions have blown up the phones. And if they have not already called the Raiders and offered everything for Max Crosby, that would be a mistake because their Super Bowl chances are out the window with this injury.
And this is the 4th Lions defender to be out for the entire year, and the most significant one. You have Marcus Davenport going down with a torn tricep in week 3, Derek Barnes injuring his knee, being out for the rest of the year, and then Kyle Pecco in this last game as well ended up suffering a torn pec, and that will end his season as well. So you have the 4 Lions in 6 weeks, 4 starters in 6 weeks, all going out and being down for the rest of the year. So, yeah, and again, the most significant one being Aiden Hutchinson, obviously on his way to getting that Defensive Player of the Year. And it just sucks. It sucks to see. But, yeah, I would agree with you. I think this is going to be a significant impact because if you've watched a Lions game, you can turn on any Lions game from week 1 to week 6, and you can just watch 97. Watch 97. That's all you have to do. You see the motor. You see the spin moves. The spin move is the best in the league. It's a lot of fun to watch, but it's just constant pressure. He's constantly in the backfield. And it's not just an impact on the pass rush. He's not a pass rush specialist. He's in the backfield for running plays, and he's all over the place. That's the heart and soul of the defense. Having a high motor like that, especially on the defensive line, is huge for the team, huge for team morale. Him going down like that, they're going to need something else to at least boost the morale at the very least. So I think it's also going to be significant. Do you have anything else to add before we move on?
What's kind of funny is his injury. Did you see it?
I did, unfortunately.
It's actually not that bad. As funny as that may sound, breaking his leg is probably better than blowing out his ACL or rupturing his Achilles, which is crazy to think about. But it's sad. It's absolutely disgusting, but bones grow back and they do their thing and they heal a lot quicker than Achilles or an ACL. And once he's healed, once he's back in practice, he'll be back right away. An Achilles injury for a pass rusher, that might take him an entire season to get back to form. An ACL injury, that might take him an entire season to get back to form. So it was terrible. There's a reason why I gave him my player of the week, because he should have been the defense player of the year. Shout out to Aiden. Yeah. He's been crazy this year, but he'll be back in full form and he'll be terrorizing. Just imagine the Detroit Lions next year with Aiden Hutchinson on one side and Max Crosby on the other. Look out.
Dude, if it actually happens, I'll give you every single prop on the planet. I'll shout you out crazy.
I mean, if the Raiders are willing to entertain it, like, why wouldn't you give up the war chest for it?
Yeah. And again, just like we talked about with the Devontae thing, it's like, what are you holding on to this one guy for when your entire organization's kind of in shambles at this point? You need a hard reset anyways.
I mean, if I was the Lions, I might be willing to send the picks and like Jameson Williams, JMO, I might send him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That way Josh Reynolds can drop crucial fourth down passes in the NFC Championship game. That'll be fun.
Josh Reynolds is on the Broncos. I don't think he's going to the AFC Championship game anymore.
I just like to bring up good memories. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. All right, moving on from our headlines and now moving into snap decisions. This is the second time rolling through snap decisions. If you don't know how this works and how this is going to work, is I have 5 questions here for Drew. There's some follow-up questions on top of that, but he has to answer them. He doesn't know what they are. He has no idea. Okay.
Hopefully I answer them correctly this week.
Because you were to elaborate afterwards.
You were all primed to take Jaden Daniels up the ladder, and I just shut that one down early. And there was no ladder to take him up. So
it's okay. There's some follow-up questions on some of these. We'll see how it goes. Okay, you ready?
Born ready, baby.
Ready. Are the Atlanta Falcons real threats in the NFC playoffs?
No.
Has Caleb Williams and the Bears offense arrived?
Yes.
Will Antonio Pierce finish the season as the Raiders head coach?
Yes.
Okay. Sum up the Cowboys season in one sentence.
It's not over yet.
Did the Eagles do anything to change the perception of the team on Sunday?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so let's go ahead and roll back through, and let's give you some time to elaborate on some. So are the Atlanta Falcons real threats to the NFC playoffs?
I don't think so. I think the Buccaneers are just better than them at this point. And, let me pull it up right now. Standings. Playoff standings. Minnesota, Atlanta, if I'd imagine Tampa Bay wins that division. So now you are right now, if the playoffs started today, the Packers are not in the playoffs. Right. Yeah. And that's our All right, they're in our top 10 power rankings. That's going to change.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is not in the playoffs. Dallas isn't in the playoffs. I just don't expect it to continue. Kirk Cousins, I think, is he going to stay healthy all year? If he doesn't, is Michael Penix ready? Kyle Pitts is still. I think Tyler Algier is their favorite running back out there, even though Bijan had a big game. Like the running back, the percentage of the percentage of the snaps is crazy. Drake London had a massive game. 140 yards 2 weeks ago, but he's largely unproven. The pass rush is still terrible. So I don't believe in them going forward in the playoffs. I just don't think that they're, right now Chicago's in the playoffs, which is kind of funny to think about, but they're 4-2. But in my opinion, I would expect Green Bay to be in, and I would expect, if I had to make a guess, I'd expect the Cowboys to make the playoffs as well.
Hopefully not. Caleb Williams and the Bears offense arriving. You think that they have arrived? They face the two worst passing defenses that you can in the league. You expect that this running game is still going to be consistently okay or okay to good, and Caleb to continue on. I know he's developing, and I'm not a Caleb hater, very far from it, but you think they're here?
Yeah, man, you got to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. And they didn't just beat the Panthers. They didn't just beat Jacksonville. They smashed them. They put up 35 points. That defense is legit. What's going to happen with that defense going forward is it's going to create turnovers. It's going to give Caleb a short field. He's making the throws he needs to make. Keenan Allen gets his first touchdown on the season this week. It's all coming together. They have the Commanders, which is going to be a tough game. But then they got Arizona and New England, They do have to go Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, San Francisco, Minnesota, Detroit, Seattle, Green Bay to finish the season. That's fucking nasty. And I didn't know that. That's why it's called snap judgments. But holy shit. God damn, that sucks.
Yep.
Ooh, that is a tough division. Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit. Good Lord. It's like the new NFC East.
You teetered on this one a little bit. Will Antonio Pierce finish the season as the Raiders head coach?
Well, you didn't ask me should.
Yeah, I said it will. Yep.
If you said should, I said absolutely not. They need to get him out of there. But Max Crosby went to bat for this guy and said he wanted him to be the head coach. If Max Crosby is traded, then I think they just let Antonio Pierce run out the season because they're going to suck anyway and they're going to move on from him in the offseason. Why do you go to an interim at that point? The other fact of the matter is Mark Davis is broke as shit. He doesn't have the money to do all this stuff. He's already paying 16 other head coaches that he had to fire. But, this offseason, he could have made a serious run at Jim Harbaugh. The Chargers look legit, even though they have a lower level roster in the NFL right now. They look legit with the head coach that's over there coaching through a heart attack. And meanwhile, you got Antonio Pierce on the sideline with his pom-poms, and he can't do anything. So should he finish the season? He should not. Will he? Probably, because what other coach do you have on that staff? What interim coach are you going to have?
Right.
The Jets have had Jeff Ulbrich in the wings for a long time because the 49ers tried to hire him as their defense coordinator and the Jets said no. They gave him a fat ass raise and said, hey, stay here. We got plans for you. There's nobody in the Raiders. No. So will they fire him? No. Should they? Yes.
Sum up the Cowboy season in one sentence.
I still think they're going to the playoffs, man. I don't think it's over. They've had a few lackluster showings. The defense is super hurt right now. The fact that your stupid ass owner / GM refused to solve the running back problem in the offseason is mind boggling.
Did you see him throw a fit today?
No, what'd he do?
Threw a fit on the radio show of them questioning his lack of offseason moves, and they questioned him a handful. It's the radio show he always goes on.
It's his dumbass fault. He said he was going in.
And
all in.
They questioned him, and he was like, "I'll get someone else to answer these questions. It's ridiculous for you to sit here and question me, and you're gonna bring up all the wrongs. You're not even gonna bring up the rights." And it's like, bro, hang it up. Go to bed, Grandpa. When it comes to the Cowboys season, though, when you're looking at the future, there were 3-3. The next game that we end up playing is against the Niners, and then we have the Falcons, and then we have the Eagles, and then we have the Texans, and then we have the Commanders. It's 5 games that don't look so good. Then you have the Giants, and then you have the wishy-washy Bengals. We'll see how that one goes. And then you have the Panthers. You have a good finish there. But then we have the Bucks, another division opponent in the Eagles, and then we play the Commanders again. I don't know how well the season's going to end up finishing out. We've looked like shit. Even with the wins, we've looked like shit. So I can't even hang my hat on any single one of these wins. The Steelers, the Giants, or the Browns. I'm not proud of it. Any one of those. Those are some of the worst teams in the league outside the Steelers. But those other 2 wins, the Giants and the Browns, I'm not hanging my hat on. So that's my perception of it. But again, talked about it week in, week out. I'm a pessimistic fan. And then the Eagles,
he said your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something. That's not your job. I'll get somebody else to ask these questions. I'm not kidding. That's what happens when an owner, this happens locally in Sacramento too. The Kings had a lot of play back in the day over who was on the radio. The Raiders did too. Mark Davis got a lot of dudes. John Middlecoff, he works with Colin Cowherd. He's fantastic. I love the 3 and Out podcast. Shout out to John Middlecoff. He got fired by the Raiders because he was criticizing them. Jerry Jones basically saying, listen, you're going to ask me pancake-ass, pre-recorded, pre-authorized questions, or I'll fire you and get someone else to ask me the questions that I want to answer. It's a joke. He has too much control. They need to, Jerry Jones, never mind. I won't say it. I was going to make a Vince McMahon comparison. I won't go there. But, talking about his players' packages and shit. I think it's time for Steven. He's got to take a bigger role on this. Jerry Jones also said, hell no, there's nobody that could effing come in here and be a better GM than me. And that's after trading away Amari Cooper for a 5th when 3 years later he went for a 3rd here. So,
yep.
But like I said, it's not over. You got the highest paid player in the NFL. That's got to count for something.
Yeah, I sure as hell hope it does. And then the last question is, did the Eagles do anything to change perception of the team?
I think Jalen Hurts hates Nick Sirianni.
I hope so. I think everyone hates Nick Sirianni, except Nick Sirianni, who probably looks himself in the mirror and absolutely just loves himself. Yeah, I think he's about the only one.
Did you see him screaming at the fans?
Yeah. Yep. Fucking clown. He looks like a fucking idiot out there. He's dumb.
And here's the other problem though with the Eagles that they have right now. Their offensive coordinator also sucks. Kellen Moore's not a guy. He made Dak look like shit. He's made Justin Herbert look like shit, and now Jalen Hurts doesn't look very good either. Kellen Moore's not the answer. So if you fire Sirianni, you're not putting Kellen Moore as the interim head coach. That would be a terrible idea.
Yep.
Oh, is that William Belichick's music?
All right. That was our snap decisions, and obviously letting Drew elaborate on those is good for it's not so good for TikTok and the YouTube shorts, but it's the clips.
Were you watching Red Zone when the Cowboys game was on, or were you just watching the Cowboys game?
I was just watching the Cowboys game.
So did you see that the Steelers ran a reverse flea flicker that got Justin Fields blown the fuck up? And everybody laughed at them on the internet. You know what? I'm so good at it. Don't you dare. Don't do it. Don't you do it. Don't do it. All right, you're good. You're not going to do it. The problem is I never do this on the computer, so I'm not used to the. All right. Can I show video on this thing? Will this get copyrighted if I do this?
You're fine. Good.
All right, let's just do it. This will be fun.
It's in a tiny little window. Should be okay.
Watch this play. Oh, there's one highlight from the Raiders game. Here we go. All right, here we go. Do you see this play? That's got to be the worst offensive play that's ever happened in the history of Pittsburgh Steelers football. Did you know that literally 37 seconds later, the Lions ran it for a touchdown against you guys to Laporta? Oh, man, it was the same play, and it happened within 41 seconds of each other.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know if I saw that one.
You probably were taking a nap by the time that happened.
No, I unfortunately saw it. Looking forward now, Drew, our ending segment, as we do every single week, is our upset of the week. And it sounds like you have something real nice coming our way. You are 4-6. Excuse me.
Whoa.
2-4.
Thanks for the dubs.
Relax. You're 2-4. I am 1-5. What do you have coming our way for next week, week 7?
I'm only 2-4 because I keep picking these real toughies to try to get you back in
You
it.
keep moving the goalposts. Okay.
The Commanders over the Ravens. Come on, bro. No one expected that to happen.
Okay.
Who is yours this week? Because I got 2 that I feel confident in.
I am going to go ahead and pick the second worst team to beat the worst team in the league, and that's the New England Patriots to win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. New England's
Boring.
like 5.5 point underdogs, so I felt like that was pretty fair. So hope Drake May goes in there and just kind of beats him up. That's my upset of the week.
You're just trying to get a dub this week, huh? You're just trying to get a dub this week.
You good?
Okay. Listen, I have foreshadowed the expectation throughout this podcast that I think Detroit is beating the Vikings this week. So I will not pick that for my upset of the week because I'm super confident in it. Instead, I'm going to pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to knock off the Baltimore Ravens. Baby!
Dude, that's
Fuck it, Mayfield.
Monday's gonna be fun. I'm excited to watch it. I'm probably most anticipated to watch that game alone. There's got a lot of good games this weekend, but that's probably the one I'm very anticipated to watch.
I'm telling you right now, if they win, I'm gonna have a Baker Mayfield jersey on this podcast next week. You can count on that.
Are you just gonna buy a bunch of jerseys and put it behind you once you get the new studio up?
No, this shit's going in the trash. This is toilet paper at this point.
There you go.
So,
all right, Drew, if we have nothing else, that is the end of the podcast, man. We went for a grand total of 2 hours tonight. A lot of stuff to talk about. Again,
shout out to cocaine.
That's after cutting out.
I'm just kidding. I don't do cocaine.
That's after cutting out a bunch of stuff about the Cowboys and the Chargers. We'll cover that stuff in the coming weeks and keep an eye out for see how they kind of shake things out here eventually. But that's all we have for today. Drew, do you have anything to say to people before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to the NFL. It never stops. It never quits moving. Amari Cooper and Devontae Adams traded today. This is my notes for the podcast. I had an additional 4 pages of notes that I'd written down for our Cowboys segment that I had to throw away because we had to scrap it because Devontae Adams and Amari Cooper got traded. Disrespectful. So did Cam Akers. Thank you very much.
He did. Second time to the Vikings. Fun.
He's got to be I think he's the worst running back in the NFL.
I don't know. Alexander Madison exists.
That's true. Do you know how I have to tell you, watching our boy go off for the Bills this week was fun, but I was hoping he was going to sprain his ankle or something so we get a little Frank Gore Jr. action up in there. I was rooting for some Frank Gore Jr. action. So
that's all we have for this week, though. Thank you guys for watching to the end. If you did stick around to the end, make sure you hit subscribe. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Hit follow on TikTok. We're on all different types of social platforms. Make sure you follow us on all of that. If you are interested in NBA content, we are 1 week away from today, right? Yep, the 22nd, the NBA season kicks off. So we're going to go ahead and kick off our NBA podcast on Friday. That will be every Friday live here on YouTube. Make sure you catch it around 8:45, 9 o'clock, same time as we usually do for our lives. And then those episodes will end up going on those aforementioned platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, for the full podcast episode. So make sure you catch them. If you can't catch us live, make sure you go watch all the content there. Short form content, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. Make sure you hit us up on there as well. So we do appreciate it.
yeah, and definitely tune into the NBA podcast. Me and him have discussed this a lot, and we are going to predict the New York Knicks to win the Eastern Conference next year. So,
yeah, okay, now we're lying.
Hey, don't you disrespect Karl Anthony Towns?
I absolutely will. All right, big cat. Purr. All right. Let's go ahead and sign it off right there. It was a lot of fun tonight. We'll go and see you guys on Friday.